Pete Feenstra on the 22nd of May 2014, talking to the wonderful Coco Montoya on my left.
Hi, Pete.
Former blues breaker, Albert Collins drummer. And how many years now as a solo artist, Coco?
I left John in '93.
93, my goodness,
Yeah,
93, time flies.
Time flies, yeah.
And I said the 22nd of May, whatever it is, or 21st of May, I mean, I guess you've been on tour for so long you lose track of that.
Oh, I never can keep track of that.
I want to throw a quote at you from John Mayall, since we mentioned him. John Mayall once said, "You learn from your mistakes, consider them opportunities."
Right.
Has that become a mission statement for your career, more or less?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much sums it up. One of the most important things I got from John Mayall was the ability to make a mistake and learn from it and continue on, not let people or incidents deter you. John's very amazing with that.
Yeah, and the fact that he's been out there all those years kind of
he's
still
doing it.
Absolutely. Going back to the beginning of your career, I mean, you said you were influenced by doo-wop, surf, soul, pop, Stax, Motown.
Sure.
But thinking about the blues, was it Johnny Otis's TV show that drew you towards that, or was it when you saw Albert King? Was that more of a defining moment?
The defining moment was seeing Albert King. I think when as a child, having access to the Johnny Otis show, which was probably planting a seed that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just liked it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't care.
Kind of drawn you towards blues to the mainstream.
I had two older sisters and older brothers, so they were watching the rock and roll of the day.
Were they into music as well?
Yeah, well, not as players at all, but I mean, they brought all the records, and I'm the little kid that snuck in and played them, on purpose. I got in trouble for doing that.
That's what you do at that age, I guess.
Yeah.
So you also said that blues is kind of the roots of all American music. I think that's a fair point.
Absolutely.
Is that the reason it drew you as well to R&B and soul and all those other things that you've explored ever since?
Yeah, I think that's the whole deal. It all comes from feeling and not from a technical aspect. Any of these kind of music, it was all about feeling and nothing was perfection. Especially the doo-wop stuff. I mean.
Yeah, it's still great stuff.
The charm of it all was that it wasn't perfect.
That's a good point.
And it was just that real. I made it more real.
As Frank Zappa alluded to, when he used to kind of go back and regurgitate that.
Oh, he loved that stuff. Yeah.
And he paid it due reverence, I thought.
Oh yeah. Well, a couple times I met Frank Zappa.
You did?
Yeah. Odd situations, but what the connecting thing was just talking about some old doo-wop stuff.
Which he knew about.
Which he lit up and wanted to talk more about. He liked that stuff.
So that would be in Los Angeles when you met him?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable. I had no idea about that. Going back to, we'll talk about it, your career with Albert Collins and John Mayall. In both those instances, you kind of almost stumbled is the wrong word, but you didn't plan to be in those bands.
Stumbled's a good description of that. Yeah, that wasn't a situation where.
And I want to come back to
nobody brought it to me, or it just happened.
But the reason I mention that is that because now, of course, you've had this solo career for quite a long time, as we mentioned, and I'm thinking this is actually planned. So does that put more pressure on you, or has it put more pressure on you since you did that yourself?
Well, I think.
Whereas before you were kind of people were knocking on your door and step this way, Coco, do you want to play with us? It was fantastic.
Well, yeah, I mean, the two opportunities of my life, the big musical opportunities were those two with Albert Collins and John Mayall, in two different careers, one as a drummer and one as a guitar player. I don't know how to even understand how that even happened. It just did, and I think later, I was very lucky, very, very lucky, and later in life, I just applied the teachings of these two great musicians.
And still do.
Oh, absolutely.
And still do. Let's talk about your new album, Songs from the Road on Roof Records. Given the fact you've always fed off of live audiences, would this be the closest you've come to a definitive Coco Montoya album, would you say?
Because some might say that, but I don't know. This is kind of like a milestone for me because I always shied away from making live albums.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
now, why is that?
Just my own, your own worst critic, and I find that I'm pretty sloppy and I sing pretty sloppy. So.
Not on this album, you don't, believe me. All you people out there, it's a double live album. It is absolutely.
Yeah, it's something I avoided for a long time, and then finally it's just come to a place where we needed to do it. The band was sounding good, and I said, okay, now's the time.
And the fact you had Roy doing the production.
Oh, Jim Gaines.
I beg your pardon, Jim Gaines. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Gaines, of course. Yeah, but him helping me out. Yeah. Him helping me out was a big part of it because I felt safe. Jim's known me in many years, done a couple of my albums, and he kind of knows what an insecure person I am.
Plus, you worked with him over the years anyway.
Yeah. So it was a comfort zone there.
So does he kind of? And talking about comfort zones, that's a good point to talk about because you said in the past. In your previous albums, you moved out of your comfort zone. I want it all back. You said that about that album.
Absolutely.
But you've done the very same thing again with the live album, of course, for the reasons you just outlined.
Yeah.
I mean, was it always planned that you were going to do that at the club that you did it in, for example?
Not really. Actually, we recorded it in another club, and it didn't come out very well. So we decided to try it at the Triple Door. Happened to be there. Another opportunity showed up. A guy, was running Pro Tools and.
Yeah, and a Northwest stronghold for you. Really,
yeah, it was a really nice place. It's a great club to play at, the Triple Door, and they made it happen. And then we did another night there, and that's how it all came.
You haven't nearly played Europe enough down the years. You really haven't. I mean,
no.
We've all seen Walter Trout the last 20 odd years. He's fantastic. He was always talking about you, without fail. And here you are. I mean, is it because you signed to Roof in Germany that opens a few doors with you coming over to Europe now more?
Definitely was a plan, to sign with Thomas Rufus to try and cultivate Europe and get over this way a little more. It's just very strange when Walter left. He had his opportunity to cultivate Europe and Scandinavia and all that, and that's what grew for him. And he concentrated on that. I myself was in the States, still working with John, but going out on little things by myself. Yeah. So I was cultivating the States. So I've been constantly working in the States. I just haven't been able to get a foothold over here yet.
Understood. Let me throw a quote at you. One of your quotes from a while back, and it's a very good one. Making music and the music business are two different things. Does being on Roof Records give you more freedom in terms of your musical direction? Particularly given you work with Alligator and you seem to be a bit hemmed in there?
I think that Thomas, I scare him, but the two albums we've done, I mean, he's had a little faith in me and realized that, he has to kind of just let go of the steering wheel for a minute and let me drive a little bit.
And he'll let you do that, yeah.
Well, to a certain degree. No, record companies usually don't. But,
that's my point.
Yeah.
So it's giving you a bit more freedom and a bit more confidence. And
I think when we did this recording, and to explain to him that I really was actually okay with the bumps and bruises and the warts that are on there, which is a big thing for me. It's a real big deal for me. So I said I actually can listen to this thing all the way through. So that's telling me that we had a great night. We had a real good time doing it. So. I thank Thomas Roof for having some faith in getting this thing released.
And I think it's true to say Walter was a connection that led you to Roof.
Yes.
And of course the two of you, we have to talk about Walter when we talk about Coco. You've had a kind of intertwined careers, even though you haven't played together all that time. Of course you're in the Blues Breakers. You both did an early career album for Silvertone.
Yeah.
Separately, of course.
Well, Walter and I knew each other before the Blues Breakers.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. We used to see each other
how that
locally.
came about.
Venice, California, Santa Monica, California, down Long Beach. We'd run into each other at jam sessions, or there'd be. He was one of the guys. We used to do gigs. All this local guys, Doug McLeod, me, James Harmon, all these people. We get calls to back up all the blues guys in L.A.
Yeah.
Walter, me and him would show up. We'd play guitar behind Big Joe Turner.
Yeah.
We do stuff that.
So you did that before you joined Albert Collins, in fact?
Oh, well, around the same time. I started with Albert Collins back in '72.
Yeah.
So,
a long time ago.
So around the end of the '70s, going into the '80s, me and Walter and all those guys, the local guys, we're always playing with somebody, and that's how we all got to know each other.
And you ended up playing on his Full Circle album, which is great.
Yeah, that was a really fun day, a great day.
His biggest selling album. I thought it was fantastic that he did that.
Fun. Him and his wife wrote that song.
Oh, really?
right there. They wrote it. They just grabbed some paper, wrote it, and we went in and played it, and that was it. It was done.
I've got to skip through a whole load of stuff here. When you were on Alligator, well, before you signed to Alligator, why was it that Bruce Iglar didn't think that Got a Mind to Travel, which you recorded in '95 on Blind Pig, would do any good for your career? What was that?
Oh, you'd have to ask Bruce that.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, because I really don't. I mean, we went to him first.
Yeah.
That was the first place we went. My manager, John Bonsamino, which was Albert Collins' manager, was Kevin Moe's manager. He said, "That's let's start with the obvious and go to that label." And Bruce didn't think the album had any merit. So.
And a year later, you were nominated for a WC Handy Award. And
for the second album, yeah.
Yeah, by then. So that must have kind of.
On Blind Pig.
On Blind Pig, yeah. Well, that's the point. Yeah. So that kind of gave you a lot of confidence, a lot of.
Well, it was a start. They called me the up and coming.
Yeah.
Up and coming.
Let me ask you about the Cake Brothers.
Yes.
I've got to move on. The Cake Brothers, you recorded a track on Radioland. Was that recorded before you did your first solo album as such?
Gosh.
That was 95.
No, actually, I'd already done my own, my first album, but Radioland, yeah, we played on that. They are probably, there's a tragedy if they could come over here and play it. The most soulful, incredible, great songwriting, great singing. Ernie Cates, my favorite singer. Earl Cates, one of my favorite guitar players.
Wow.
So unique.
Yeah.
Just great people. If anybody out there gets a chance to hear some Cate Brothers, please.
Well, on that very subject, I've got loads of questions to ask you about songwriting, but let's just go back to Albert Collins and move forward, and we'll get to that point. So much to do here. When you first met Albert. Well, actually, you did a double whammy almost, because apparently when you met Albert, you threw a wobbly because he was using your drum kit. Yeah. And then when John Mayall called you up to be in his band, you didn't think it was him.
I didn't.
So your two biggest things in your career, you blew them both out.
Well, I used to work at, to make it real, it's very pointed, I used to work at a British pub in Laurel Canyon.
Oh, okay.
It was owned by Kim Gardner, Ashton Gardner and Dyke. And I didn't really know too much about them, but everybody used to come in, so I got to know the roadies and all these English guys, and God, it was amazing, all the guys that used to come in that place. Jeff Beck was always there, Mitch Mitchell was always there.
Wow. It
was amazing, but I thought they were having a go at me, So they say, yeah, it's John Mayall, and reforming the Blues Breakers, and I don't know if you want, yeah, sure, and I hung up on it.
Unbelievable.
He called back and said, "Don't hang up." And I listened to the voice, and really, it was him. And
for people who don't know, with Albert Collins, you were in some club in Culver City, California, and you had your drum kit set up. Is that right?
Well, I went to pick up my drums, and the club owner was so excited about having Albert do a little matinee show. He said, "Use whatever you want."
Yeah,
and I didn't know about it, so I got pretty upset. But then Albert was so sweet and nice. I just said, "You know what? Look, you guys are set up. I'm not going to try and bother you. Go ahead." And he asked me to sit in that night. We talked, and he gave me he said, "Here's my phone number. Let me have your phone number." And I never thought any more about it. And several months later down the road,
and you went straight out on the road without rehearsal?
In a matter of hours.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
and you were 21.
Up about 3 hours.
You were 21 years old at the time.
Just turned, yeah.
Wow.
Roughly.
And what was that? A four-piece band, or?
Yeah, Bo Peters on keyboards, Tommy Terry on bass. Me on drums, and a Canadian guitar player, I can't remember his name right offhand, but we
winged it.
Straight up, and the guys were telling me in shows we were heading up Interstate 5,
Well, and when you first joined him, was it always in his mind that he was going to mentor you, or was that something, did that process kind of happen as you were busy touring?
I think that's just something that developed as we got closer. It was just, I figured I'd go out, and my thought was, I'm going out to help you. I knew you were in a bad way, you needed a drummer, and I'm just going to try to fill into, you can get somebody that can really play your music.
Yeah.
And Albert, we went home, and he just said, "Look, you want to stick with me and go with this?" I said, "I'll do anything. I'll just, I'd love to, but I want you to I love what you're doing, so I want you to have a real blues drummer," which I wasn't at the time. And Albert stuck with me, and
did he talk about any aspirations for himself at the time, or was he just looking out for the next gig? Right.
All the time. I mean, just like all of them, chasing the dream and dealing with all the craziness and.
And you mentioned Big Joe Turner, and I'm thinking the people you met, Shaky Jake,
Oh,
Chick
yeah.
Harris, Lowell Fulsom, all these people.
Oh, yeah.
Were they playing the same club circuit that Albert was on at the time?
In LA, we were all playing it. I mean, me playing with Lowell Fulsom was facilitated by Albert Collins.
Wow.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you know, Coco, everybody knows you primarily as a field player, irrespective of who you played with. Everything comes from what you feel with the audience, with the stuff you're playing.
Right.
Did that come from Albert, do you think? I mean, was that something that he passed on to you?
A great deal of it. I think I was on that road anyway because I was pretty much shy. I didn't take lessons. I couldn't take criticism. I couldn't take.
Because you're 21 years old, right?
Not even when I was a kid. I just couldn't do it.
Ah.
I was the kid that was in the garage with the stereo speakers facing me, trying to play drums and learn how to play like Al Jackson or something.
Yeah, Al Jackson.
Trying to do that kind of stuff. And same thing with guitar. I mean, it was me sitting in a room just, listening to John Mayall with Clapton and Peter Green and, just...
So you were hip to John Mayall before you joined him?
A friend of mine took me up, really early on, took me up to Wallach's Music City in Hollywood and said, I want you to hear this. Wallach's Music City.
Okay.
And they had the demo booths. You go in there, they have albums for you to go check it out. If you like it, then you buy one, right?
Yeah.
Well, he put John Mayall on, and I first heard a little girl doing an interview.
Yeah.
Take two.
Yeah. Carry on.
So where was I? I totally lost where. Oh well. Anyway.
John Mayall.
Yeah, a friend of mine took me in the Beano album.
Yeah.
And I said, who is it? What is this? What does this sound? Because it wasn't like any blues that I had heard, that I had identified with.
And it wasn't being played on the radio, right?
No, and it said, that's the guy that's playing in Cream.
Ah.
And I go, yeah, well, what's this? He goes, well, this is what he was doing before that. This is,
Ah.
And so here was this blues thing going on, but taking on a whole unique sound.
Absolutely.
It's a hybrid.
Absolutely.
It came back to us in the form of guys like Clapton and
well, even the Stones,
blew us
of course,
away.
and everybody else. Yeah.
And then everybody in LA wanted a Les Paul, a gold top Les Paul.
Yeah.
Everybody bought one,
Isn't that funny how
That's
everybody
hilarious.
follows it? So when you finished with Albert, that must have been a big wrench for you. But the weird thing is, looking back after all these years, not being you, obviously, I mean, you didn't actually have anywhere to go when you left Albert. So were you thinking this is as far as my career is going to go musically at the time? Because
Pretty much, yeah, I was done.
Yeah.
I figured it was over. I'd had my little thing. I'd done it, and I just realized that I wasn't a technically learned drummer. I didn't have all that, so I wasn't going to be working.
Not like
a
a
lot.
session player.
No, that wasn't gonna happen. So I pretty much got a day job and enjoyed having money.
I'm playing at the weekend, of course.
Oh, just jamming though. Not really playing. I
Okay.
wouldn't commit to a band. Or
But on that subject of jamming, I've got to move this on again. That's where John Mayall comes back into the picture, because I want to ask you a question. Is that true that when he came in the pub or wherever it is you were playing at the club, that you jammed All Your Loving, I Miss Loving?
Yeah, I did the Otis Rush bastardized version with the guys that were up there. All Your Love.
Yeah.
That was at the Central Club where everybody went for the jam session, and it was a great jam session because it used to be nobodies with stars.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart would walk in and jam with nobodies. Eric Burton would come up and sing Lottie Miss Claudie and with nobodies. Phil Collins would be playing drums with somebody.
And where was this at? What was the club?
It's now called the Viper Room. It's where River Phoenix had his ad.
But back then?
It was the Central. And it was run by an English fella.
All right.
And really run really well. And that's where John saw me, and I guess through who's this guy, what's that guy? I think the sound man actually made a cassette of us.
Oh, that's a great thing.
And that's how I got the job.
And when you started playing in the Blues Breakers, you used to do your own thing at the beginning of the show, right?
No, that came later. We started off just doing John, and then it was later, like maybe later on in the year, that first year, that me and Cal David, which was the first other guitar player, we started doing an opening song.
Okay.
One song, and then me and Walter did that when Walter came into the band.
Let's talk about you and Walter. You spent 5 years out of your 10 with John Mayall, with Walter, of course. Now you said there was a lot of pressure when you played in the Blues Breakers. Was that due to the weight of expectation, or the fact that you were going head to head with Walter every night after a while?
I think it's to do with both those both those things. I mean, here you are, for a guy like me and the kind of music I like and everything. To me, being in John's band for me was, well, I just joined the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know, for me as a blues guy, I mean, Eric was in that band.
Yeah.
Peter Green was in that band. Mick Taylor was in that band. All these guys that I idolized all these years. So if I make it 1 month, I can officially be in the book. That's why I figured I was never going to stay. I didn't think it was going to happen.
Really?
No, I never thought of it, and I didn't think I had what it took to really do
At
it.
what point did you know that you had what it took? Both as a guitarist, by the way, and also as a songwriter, which is a separate thing.
I'm not so sure that I knew it very strongly, because it was such a positive situation, but yet it could be a very negative situation, because you have ghosts of guitarists past, and you have this incredible guy, Walter Trout, over here, and myself.
Yes, three prongs.
And it was really, the only negative thing about it, which I didn't care for, and a lot of times it brought a lot of pressure for me and Walter, it seemed like to be a boxing match. We weren't playing music. Sometimes it was who's louder, who's getting over.
But did John Mayall actually encourage that, do you think, looking back?
I got to say John did.
Yeah, because it was good for him, right?
Well, I mean, he saw it, and the people loved it, and the people would get excited about it, and that's all the people would talk about was, oh, Walter was much better than Coco last night. You know, oh, Coco was much better than Walter last night. You know, it's just, and it turned me and Walter. We used to have a lot of problems, issues with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was, and what's really brilliant, what's really is great, is that during all that situation, of course, and a lot of drinking, a lot of drugging, and all that stuff, but you know, we were still there for each other. We'd still talk, even though we were envious of each other, and egos were having problems. It was so wonderful to be with him after that, and hang out, and to really tell each other how much we do love each other and care about each other. And that's what was brilliant. So when we got to play for the first time at a live gig in Florida, and I brought Walter out on my set, it was
Tampa,
magic.
right?
Yeah, we were playing music, man. We weren't trying to outdo each other. We were enjoying each other, and that was the brilliant thing that came out of that.
That particularly came across on Behind the Iron Curtain, which was a fantastic album, which, if you remember the mid-80s, it was all keyboards and weird haircuts, and there was no guitar albums out there, and then suddenly that came on. I think Paul Jones was the guy that first played it, God bless him, on BBC Radio 2, and it was fantastic.
That's an amazing
This has been Pete Feenstra talking to Coco. We're going to take a slight break, we'll be right back.